Shalom ubracha. Wow. We're now still within the 3 weeks. And as we get closer to the 9 days, it gets more intensive. Nosson explains the 9 days, starting from Rosh Chodesh to Tisha B'Av, they in a way correspond to what we're going to see coming up, the 9 chambers. There's 9 chambers which are created, which allow you to perceive the infinite light. And the way to receive the 9 chambers, to create them, is by being bounced back. So the bounce back due to the 9 days, starting from Rosh Chodesh, where there's more restrictions of mourning, and you're not allowed to do this and not allowed to do that. It's even harder. So all that is meant to allow you to build vessels to perceive the infinite light, okay? And that leads up to Tu B'Av, where it says in the Gemara that one of the happiest days of the year was Tu B'Av. So the Simcha, that's the goal, is a result also of the, in other words, after making these 9 chambers, by being bounced back and taking them positively, we can go on level of Simcha. That's one thing. Another thing, that when a person sees they're being hit from all corners, they're being hit from out in Avodat Hashem, they're being hit financially in Shalom Bayit issues, and Chinuch issues, and Shidduchim issues, and all the issues that they're going through, okay? The solution is, it's not like, I'm not supposed to be going through this. You are supposed to be going through this. Hashem sent it to you now. And what's the solution? It's what it says in Eicha. It says in Eicha, Dom v'yachil l'tshuat Hashem. Be silent and wait for the salvation of Hashem. There are times in life when there's nothing you can do. Because you're going through crazy, crazy pressure, and all you can do is just wait. And while you're waiting, you feel like you're being purged. I'm learning now Rav Nosson's autobiography of his trip to Eretz Yisrael, his journey to visit the Holy Land. And he goes into details of all the confusions, and all the tsar, the pain, and the agbat nefesh, the difficulties he went through on the way. He says, for example, that when he was in Istanbul, okay, there was a law. They had what's called a billet. A billet is like a type of a visa card that allows you to travel. But they had a law that the visa is only good up to the next country, and the next country you have to go to the consulate where you came from, and they renew it for the next leg of the journey. And if necessary, they translate it into the language of the country that you're going into. So Rav Nosson, he left Ukraine, Russia, but when he was born, he was considered a citizen of Austria, because at the time, Nemirov, which was central Western Ukraine, belonged under the Austrian Empire, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, okay? So Rav Nosson was technically considered an Austrian citizen, and his billet, his travel visa, was made like on behalf of an Austrian citizen. So when he got to Istanbul, the captain of the ship, the law was that he has to take all the visas and drop them off at the corresponding consulates. So he dropped it off at the Austrian consulate in Istanbul. So they went to pick up the visa, the billet, it's called in Yiddish, and to get a new one for the next leg of the journey. And the guy said, I can't read the signature, and I can't decipher if the stamp is the official stamp of Austria, because everything is metushtash, everything is blurry. And also the person who wrote out the visa wrote it in Russian. I can't read Russian. So he said you have to go. The secretary of the consulate told him you have to go and find somebody to translate it into Austrian that I can read it and everything. So he went to find somebody until they found him, and it was like Erev Shabbat. And he says, listen, I can read everything, but I can't read the name of the guy, and I can't give you my full translation on the official stamp of the Austrian Empire. So I'm writing that in the translation, what it says, that you are an Austrian citizen and everything, but I can't read it, which means it could be forged. So when they brought it to the secretary of the general counselor, whatever, in Istanbul, he began to have doubts on Rav Nosson. Why are you traveling? Why are you going to Israel? Don't you know that our emperor, the Austrian emperor, doesn't like when people go from their country, Austria, to Israel, and by doing that, taking out money, In other words, he's against schnorrers. He's against people who collect stuck up Eretz Israel. You know that our emperor is like that? So when Nosson got worried, he said, I'm just planning to go in and come back. That's all. He said, maybe you guys are spies and everything. I don't know. It's all forged. Come back Monday. So Rav Nosson says, what he went through Friday, Shabbat, Sunday, Monday, he was plutzing. Rav Nosson was plutzing, and he says that. And this is Rav Nosson. Like, Rav Nosson is someone who davens every day, puts on Rashi, Rabbeinu Tam, goes to the mikveh. He does all his avodat Hashem, and he's telling us the pain he's going through, that he was like blank. And he said he didn't know what to do. He was so scared that he'll be stuck there and imprisoned because the fear was big. You know, if you're in a foreign country, Istanbul, he said by Pere Adam. These Ishmaelim are Pere Adam, he calls them. They're wild people there. And he has no one to help him there, like no one on his side. It's a foreign country. And if they suspect him of being like a spy and everything on false documents, he could be imprisoned for life. So Rav Nosson was panicking. He says that. And he says that all he could do was cry to Hashem. And he cried. He went out. He said he went to the attic where he was staying, and he just cried out to Hashem. What else is he going to do? And then on Monday, he said the miracle happened. They came to the consulate, and they had waiting for them 2 new visas, plus a translation into Arabic, just in case they needed for Egypt, wherever they're planning to go, any Arab country, they have a translation into Arabic. Okay? What's the point? A few points come out of this. And Rav Nosson, a normal person today, in such a situation, what do they tell him? Go ask a Rav. Go ask a Rav. Go ask a Rav what to do. Go ask a Rav. Rav Nosson could ask the Rav. They asked the chief rabbi of the Ashkenazim in Galita of Istanbul back then in the 1820s. He could have done that. He didn't ask a Rav. Why didn't he ask a Rav, number one? Because he knew that you have to go to Eretz Yisrael. It's not a doubt. And if there's obstacles, the obstacles are not also, maybe it's a sign I shouldn't go. The obstacles are obstacles. I know I have to go. And doesn't help asking. If you ask what's going to happen, makes it even worse. The Rav's going to say for sure not to go. And in Rav Nosson's case, everyone's telling him, don't go, don't go, don't go. It's dangerous, it's war and everything. Number 2, you see what Rav Nosson did. There are times, you know, like we were talking about being besimcha, being besimcha, being besimcha, but there are times when you're being squeezed so much from all the corners, the only thing you can do is to cry out to Hashem. Being besimcha, you can't even, the advice of being happy doesn't work. It's not activated. All you can do is to cry out, right? This crying out is the opening for other things. But this is part of life. This is how it works. That when a person is squeezed, so the Yetzer Hara will make him feel, you're like dejected, you're a reject, you're a deject, you're a nobody, nobody wants you, nobody cares about you, your life is a failure, you got nowhere. Look where you're holding now. Everything led up to this and it's not working out. So your whole life is just a big failure. If everything you went through in life led to this setback, that means your whole life is a failure. That's what Yetzer Hara tries to tell the person. It's a big test. And you can't even be happy at that time. This application of Simchat HaMitzvah doesn't apply. For this reason, Rav Nosson says there are times that the only way to come to true Simcha is Vayitz'aku el Hashem batzar lahem mimitzukotehem yatzilehem yoshi'em. Psalm 107, the capital 107 of Hodu we see on Friday, Erev Shabbos. Rav Nosson says the salvation comes about through Vayitz'aku el Hashem. You have to cry to Hashem. And then the opening leads to, there's an opening of salvation. That's when it kicks in the Hoda'ah, the Simcha, and the giving thanks. But at a time when it's totally black, you have no other alternative than to cry out. So Bein HaMitzarim, these 3 weeks, they're a very special time to squeeze a person. It's a very good time to get a person squeezy, to squeeze out the juice out of him, to squeeze like a sfog, to squeeze him out, so that his inner desires come out. That's what it says again, right? We said this already. All those who rodef ka, want to come closer to Hashem, Yud K, are masig vav K, by completing Yud K vav K, when Bein HaMitzarim, between the tightness, when you have a wall, like Rashi says, what's Bein HaMitzarim? There's a wall here, and there's a wall here, and there's nowhere to turn. When you feel in those situations, the only thing you do is Hashem, and that's what they're expecting of you to do. And if you do that, the relief afterwards is unbelievable, and then Hashem opens your eyes to see openings. And if you don't see an opening, it's because Hashem wants to squeeze you a bit more and a bit more, because he knows he can get more out of you, more prayers and more krechts that's needed for your situation to bring you where he wants to bring you. So it's like the salvation is taking its time. Why is the money coming in? Why is it this? What's happening? Like all these type of difficulties and obstacles, and until you can't handle it anymore, until you just break out. That's what Hashem was waiting all along. This is the way Hashem designed a Jew, the neshama.
You can't understand.
Hashem wants a broken heart. Lev nishbar v'nitke, Elokim lo tizeh. Lev nishbar v'nitke, a broken heart, right? And also poor, submitted. Hashem doesn't insult. Ajab, Hashem honors a person who has a broken heart. A broken heart is something so precious. And Rav Nosson writes this, and I think Rabbeinu says that a Jew walks around today with a broken heart, who has a broken heart, it's a big ma'ala. It's a big schut among us. I was able to have a real broken heart. Just off tangent, I just heard something amazing this week. There was a couple for 8 years didn't have kids. Okay, and this year they're Breslovers. Okay, the wife she davened in the Breslov shul in Me'asharim on Yom Kippur or Rosh Hashanah, and she was next to an incident where there was one lady who was getting embarrassed. Something happened there, and she was being insulted and embarrassed, and she wasn't answering back. So this lady who didn't have kids for 8 years, she told the lady who got embarrassed, please give me a bracha right now. You're being cleansed big time. Give me a bracha that I should have kids. She just had a baby boy right now. 8 months later, Mama had a baby boy. Unbelievable. Because they say the bizayon that a person goes through is such a cleaning. And at that time to daven and do anything is so high. You have, I may mention this a long time ago. This is a very deep Kabbalistic commentary on the Chumash. It's called Eichel Bracha from the Kumarna. The Kumarna Rebbe, it's very deep. It's all Kabbalah. He writes an introduction to his Chumash commentary. Anybody with eyes can see that these Chidushim could not have been written by a human being. These are not coming from a normal human being's capacity to write such Chidushim. And he says, I agree, it's the truth. How did these Chidushim come about? He said, because he was the Rav of a community and he was always being embarrassed. And he took the opportunity when he was embarrassed, right after being embarrassed, he would go to his little base medrash, his little study, and Chidushim would start coming down from heaven like crazy. All these Chidushim, he said the majority of the Heichal Bracha Chidushim on the Chumash are from the embarrassments that he went through. Okay? Just to show you where it's happening there, okay? We have to say all this because a person has to hold on and a Jew has to go through what he has to go through. It's part of the growth. You shouldn't say, why is Hashem doing this to me? I'm a reject, I'm dejected, I'm not wanted. It's just the opposite. It's because you're onto something so close. So it's what it says in Echa, Dom v'yachei l'tshuvat Hashem. Just be silent and wait patiently for the salvation. But I can't wait, they're killing me, I'm gonna blow up. How much can I handle, right? You have to wait. Hold on, buddy. Hold on. And just wait for the good time to come. And visit Hashem, everything that was lost, Samchenu kimot initanu. Bring us joy commensurate to the days that I suffered. Inui. Samchenu kimot initanu. Bring us simcha according to the days that we had suffering and difficulties. Then we have the payback, Bezat Hashem. Even in this world. Not necessarily just to wait for the world to come, but in this world, even Bezat Hashem. All right, we're going to continue. There's so much to talk about here. We're now, again, continuing where we left off. Likutey Moharan, lesson 24, paragraph number 4. That Rabbi Nachman brings 2 psukim to explain, to show the connection between blessings and the hands, the concept of the hands. When a Jew, that's just a recap, when a Jew activates the light of the hands, how's the hands activated? When a Jew does a mitzvah b'simcha, he's able to elevate the mitzvah and the shechina and the joy of Am Yisrael out of the galut, out of the klipot, and it goes to the level of the legs, which means it's a representation. What does it mean that the mitzvah goes to the level of the legs? And now the mitzvah has movement. It can get things moving in the world. And the person's mitzvah has ramifications, has repercussions throughout the whole world. Okay, that's good. So it's shaking. It's getting things, good things happening. Okay? In this way, it was a good thing when Chabad did the mitzvah tank and the whole idea that Chabad was very into getting Jews to the mitzvah, because mitzvah is what gets people to wake up. Yes, It's a big thing to get people to do mitzvot and to encourage mitzvah performance. Here, Rabbeinu's chidush is mitzvah performance b'simcha. Enjoy. That's the whole thing, to do it b'simcha b'zat Hashem. Okay? When now the legs are aroused, in other words, the mitzvah has movement, momentum, then a person is ready through his mitzvot to receive brachot. That's the idea that the mitzvah goes up to the level of the hands. Hands represent bracha. The hands can be opened and closed, right? The idea of a hand is you can close it, you can open it. The idea of an open hand is to receive, and to give, to receive. And the closing is that you're not receiving anymore. You're not in receiving mode. Also, by the person's side, you're not giving, but you're receiving. You know, they say about a baby, they're born. How's a baby born? With the fists closed, and then when the person dies, the hands are open, right? Because the person, his whole life is I want. The person is I want. He can't receive bracha, by the way. Is that cool? It's two things which mean two opposites, which are the same thing. When a person closes his hands, so in other words, I want for myself, so he's no longer able to receive brachot. His hands are closed, he can't receive. But when a man opens his hands to give, his hands are open out to receive also at the same time. It's two opposites. Is that cool? It's opening to give, and the secret to receiving is giving. So that's what he's saying here, that the feet lead up to the arms mean the momentum that you did, that your mitzvah went to get other people in the whole world to wake up. That means you're concerned in helping other people through your mitzvot. So now it's a payback to you, that now you have open hands, which is idea of giving, but you're also now receiving the brachot. So now, at this point, Rabbeinu shows us two psukim like we saw already, to show the connection between the hands and blessings. Right, so he said in the middle of paragraph number 4, V'ikar ha-brachot miyadayim, and the essence of the blessings come from the hands. Bivchinat, like what it says in Vayikra, okay, Tet, Parshat Shmini, right? We went through this a lot last time, last two classes. Vayisa Aharon et yadav el ha'am v'varachem. Parshat Shmini, on the inauguration of the Mishkan, the Tabernacle on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, after the Jews offered all their korbanot, it says there, right? We went into this a lot last week, if you remember. And Aharon lifted his hands, et yadav, to El Ha'am. You hear that? It's to the nation that he's blessed. Vayvarachem. Here, Rabbeinu wants to tell us that bracha, even for Aharon, comes from the hands, but Aharon's hands opening is to give brachot. What we just mentioned now, that when you have the hands open to give, you're actually receiving. It's hinted in this verse. Because he wants to show you, Rabbi Nachman, that hands open is receiving bracha, and the pasuk he brings proves the opposite of the opening of the hands of Aaron to give bracha, not to receive the bracha. But Rabbeinu is using this idea of Aaron opening his hands to give bracha, to give, as the proof of the idea of receiving bracha of the hands. Now watch this. It's something amazing that came out now. Rabbi Nachman is so deep. Okay, he brings psukim. He wants you to do the research. Here, he brings two psukim verses to prove the same idea. Why? What's happening here? So Rabbi Nachman wants and likes that you do investigative work. He wants you to dig and to find hints. He doesn't say something explicitly. He'll say something clearly, but other points he'll hint to them, and he wants you to figure them out. Nafkamina will come out that it sticks out more, the implication of the message that he wants to give out. There's more details now. So here, Aharon, who was Aharon? Aharon became the Kohen Gadol. When he gave the blessing in Parshat Shmini, this is after Aharon is already wearing the 8 garments. And part of the 8 garments is what? Choshen Mishpat. And we said, if you remember, that why did Aharon merit to the Choshen Mishpat, which is also called Urim v'Tumim. Why is it called Urim v'Tumim? Why is the breastplate called Urim v'Tumim? Because it shines light. Urim is all, okay? It shines the infinite light. And its message is Tamim. Urim v'Tumim, it gives a complete message. That's what Rashi says. Rashi says it's called Or. It shines an answer. When when they didn't know, should we go to war, should we not go to war? All the questions they asked when Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't around, and Yoshua bin Nun brought the Jews to enter the Holy Land. Whenever a move was needed for the whole Am Yisrael to go to war, not to go to war, to do this, so Yoshua to ask Hashem the question in front of Elazar, the high priest, the son of Aharon Kohen, and the letters would shine on the stones on the breastplate, due to the clef, the parchment of Hashem's name, which was in the fold in between. It was like folded, right? The breastplate, the Choshen Mishpat was folded like this. It was like a long piece, folded in half. Inside was Hashem's name on parchment, and on one side they would embed the 12 stones. So, and that was put on the chest of the Kohen Gadol, and the letters would shine from the 12 tribes. Okay, so this light, a message of clarity, what to do, is like for every Jew in life. When you don't know what to do, and you want to make sure you're doing the right thing, you ask one Rav, you ask another Rav. You know, they tell you everyone ask a Rav, right? And they say yiftach b'doro kishmuel b'doro. Ask your Rav. You have a Rav of the generation. Ask him. The question is, how do I know that my Rav is the Rav of the generation? How do I know that my Rav is the Yiftach of this generation and the Shmuel of this generation? Rav Nosson says, because you don't know who's the real tzaddik who has this Ruach HaKodesh, because you would think, just ask a Rav, and Hashem will give him the Ruach HaKodesh. Is that really the case or not? Is my Rav at the capacity that he's holding at the level of being a tzaddik of a generation, that his answer is like clearly Ruach HaKodesh, clearly Emet Lamito, or not? I don't know. Because you don't know, so we have no choice but to do Hidbodedut and ask Hashem. And through asking Hashem, Hashem sends you the messages what to do. Sends you, speak to this rabbi, speak to this person. It comes about to the Hidbodedut, and you go with the flow. I'll go with it. I'm open for everything. Because anyways, I already asked Hashem for guidance, and I was sincere. So how Rav Nosson says how life develops afterwards, you can be confident and rest assured that this is the answer to your questions that you asked, according to Hashem's emet Bezat Hashem. So Urim V'Tumim is that idea. The idea of the breastplate is shining a clear answer. No doubts. It's Urim V'Tumim. Another thing they say, it's for sure. It says twice a set of Charav. We went into this one class. You were in that class. Tistalek min asafek and uknei lecha chaver. Tistalek min asafek is a Rav for halacha. When you have halacha questions and you don't know what to do, you have a Rav for halacha. The second one, the Maral says this. The Maral of Prague. Uknei lecha chaver is the Rav who's like a tzaddik hashkaf and he's guiding you. So Rav Nosson wrote right before he passed away. And it's in his last discourse in the Likutey Moharan and Rosh Chodesh Halacha Zayin. Rav Nosson says like this: Aseh lecha Rav, make yourself a Rav. And if you don't know who that Rav is, who is the Rav who has the capacity to help someone as low as myself? A Rav for tzaddikim and people, and good people, normal people, fine, they're Rabbanim and tzaddikim for them. But I know what I've gone through in my life, all the upside downs and the confusions. Is the Rav that I'm going to, can he match what I'm going through in my life? I don't know. So Nosson says, if you don't know who that Rav is, so in the meantime, ukneh lecha chaver. Kneh means, translates as, and acquire, lecha, for yourself, a friend. So Nosson explains it like this. If you don't know who the tzaddik is, aseh lecha Rav, you don't know who he is, so in the meantime, Kneh also means a quill, a kulmus. Kneh is a kulmus. Lecha chaver. The sfarm written with a pen by definite true tzaddikim. What is the proof that these sfarm are written by true tzaddikim? Is that you feel they're talking directly to you. They relate to you, even though they're written 100 years ago, 200 years ago. Wow, it's exactly what I need to hear right now. It's exactly what I'm going through in life right now. I can't believe it. There's like Ruach HaKodesh in this sfarm. If you see the Sfarim are talking to you better than any living Rav, so in the meantime, you have no other alternative until you find that Rav who's the Yiftach Bedoro, Kishmul Bedoro. He's that tzaddik who can guide me. So in the meantime, I have to have the Sfarim. I have no other alternative. What can I do if the Sfarim understand me better than the Rabbanim have access to? What can I do? Yeah, so halacha is pretty clear. Halacha, no one takes the laws into their own hands. When you have a halachic question, is because you lack knowledge of halacha? Do you lack shimush to know? These cases have come up a lot of times. I know the halacha is here, like this and this and that. Basar bechalab, a meat spoon and a milk pot, and there was onions and this and that. And I don't remember the halacha, or many things I don't remember the halacha. Even if I know halacha, I'm not 100% sure and confident that this is the halacha. So for sure, you have to ask a Rav. It's a lack of knowledge. But in Hashkafa, where the Rav now is putting your whole life in his hands, your whole future. Should you marry this girl? Should you put your kids in education? Should you do this like this? Should you move to Eretz Yisrael? Should you start a job? Your whole future, should I go to Manashan or not? Your whole life now is in the hands of this Rav. Who am I putting my life in the hands of who? Is he at that level? Is it the Yiftach B'Doro? Is it Shmuel B'Doro? I don't know. Okay? But Rav Ben Zion Apter, he was a Breslover in Poland. He came from a very non-Breslov family, even a bit Chassidim, but Misnagdim. And he began to tell his father, when he was like a young boy, like before Bar Mitzvah or after Bar Mitzvah, I have him. He was like a mevakesh. I'm burning to serve Hashem, and nothing you give me is satisfying me. Even in the Talmud Torah and the Cheder and Shabbos and the Mashpim and the Darshanim, nothing is talking to me. I want more. So he brought him to the Rebbe. So the Rebbe said to him, why don't you just be like everybody else? Why do you have to give your father such a hard time? He said, what did I do that's so wrong? So he said, okay, I'll give you a sefer. He gave him Noam Elimelech. So read Noam Elimelech. He read it and he said, it's great, but it doesn't talk to me. After he finished reading, he came back to this Rebbe. He said, it's great, but it doesn't talk to me. He says, you can't just look at everybody else. You can't be satisfied with that. He said, I'm looking for more. It's not talking to me. So I'll give you Sefer Tanya. He gave him the book Tanya. And he read the Sefer Tanya. He said, it's great, but again, I feel something is missing. He said, I have one more Sefer. If this Sefer doesn't help you, then I have no idea what can help you. He gave him the Likutey Moharan. And he read the Likutey Moharan. His eyes opened up. He flipped up. He says, I finally found somebody who can relate to me, can understand me, and open my eyes to what I'm looking for. Okay, this is a story that a person, you need to do a lot of searching to find the right address. It takes time, each person. Even here, I didn't answer who the right address is. We left it open. But the point is, you don't know. You don't have no one who can talk to you, but the Sfarim do talk to you more. So in the meantime, Kneh Lecha Chaver. Okay? Let's go on here. Yeah. Kneh is also a pen. Kneh, the Sfarim, the books, which are written with a kulmus, a pen, a quill. Kneh Lecha Chaver. Lecha, you titchaber, attach yourself. Chaver means attach yourself to the books which are written by them until you find that tzaddik who can talk to you better than the Sfarim. You can find a tzaddik who gets to you better than the Sfarim, so you found your address. But in the meantime, so learn the Sfarim, they do talk to you in the meantime until you find that tzaddik, that Rebbe, who can go into your neshama and relate and connect to you and give you the inspiration you need in life and the guidelines. This was Aharon. Aharon had the Choshen Mishpat on his heart. Okay, it had the Urim V'Tumim. Urim V'Tumim, Rav Nosson says it's every Jew. Every Jew, he says about the Sfarim, by the way. He says the lighting of the letters of the Choshen Mishpat is what happens when a person's learning a Sfarim of true tzaddikim, and he feels like the letters are jumping out at him. The letters jumping out at him, like as if he's talking directly to you, is the idea of the shining of the letters on the Choshen Mishpat. Rav Nosson says that, okay? And the message is coming from the Urim V'Tumim. Urim is plural. All is one. You can say orot or urim. Urim is really plural of or. There's one light, and there's a second light. There's the infinite light, and there's your light of receiving the infinite light. Tumim is the lashon of tmimut. And only someone who has tmimut, simplicity, honesty can pick this up. That's the condition. The condition that the letters stick out and shine to you is you have the tmimut, the urim v'tumim. You got that? So Aharon had this. Remember we said last class, how did Aharon get that? Because v'ra'acha v'samach belibo, that Moshe was worried, how could you, Hashem, make me prophet over my older brother, Aharon, who's already a prophet in Egypt? He says, you're underestimating your brother. You don't know the greatness of Aharon. Aharon is so great that even if his younger brother reaches a higher level than him, no jealousy at all. The Torah says that. He'll see you when you come back to Egypt to take the Jews out of Egypt. And he'll be happy to see you. He won't be upset. And that Rashi says, because of the joy in his heart, he merited to the Choshen Mishpat, which we said last time, that this is the true simcha. The Jew has simcha in the heart, is where he's happy for other people. It's not like, I didn't make it, my life is miserable, so I'm envious of that person. When a person, for example, has shalom bayit issues, so it's when he sees on the street a family walking, the father and the mother and the 8 kids and the roller and everything, he gets jealous because his family is like falling apart, and he sees another family walking down and they look happier and they're smiling and they're talking and everything. He doesn't get to do all that with his family. So how does he begin to, what's the normal tendency of a person? A normal tendency of a normal human being is what? To feel envious. To feel envious. What can I do? He has something that I don't have. Person has this, person's able to get up davening nets for like 50, 60 years. And you try as much to get up once a year and a month to get up for nets and you can't, and it's a killer. So you begin to have envious. It's like in a way, kinat sofrim, but it's envy, it hurts you. Okay? Here, the Gemara of Aharon, he was so looking at what Hashem gave him that he had no time to start digging in other people's lives. He has this, he has that, and he had no time for that. This is Aharon's greatness, okay? So now, this joy of the lev of Aharon led him merit to have the stones of the Choshen Mishpat, which shown the message. The stones were made up of who? The 12 tribes, right? Watch this now. So the Pasuk Rabbeinu said is what? Vayisa Aharon et yadav elam bevarchem. Aharon, who has the Choshen Mishpat on him, the light of the Or Ein Sof, the infinite light shining, and the brachot, the capacity of brachot, he's the one giving the bracha, raising his hands to the Am and giving the bracha. And then Rabbeinu brings the second Pasuk, Uchmo shekatuv, and like it says, Midei Avir Yaakov Misham Ro'eh Even Yisrael. Let's go back to what we said last week. You remember? We meet Gemara on this pasuk. This pasuk is the bracha given in Parashat Vayechi to Yosef. Yaakov, before passing away, he gives brachas to the 12 sons. And here, there's a few psukim of Yaakov, of Yosef's bracha, Ben Porat Yosef, Ben Porat Alein, all these psukim. And then it says, right, that he merited to have gold on his arms, Vayafozu, right? Vayafozu Zurav, I forgot the word of the pasuk. What? Vayafotzu Zurayadav, Vayafotzu, the Vayafozu. I have to see the pasuk again. He had gold. Rashi said, got the gold on his hands, and when he became the viceroy of Egypt, right? And all the levels there. And then it says at the end of all these brachas, Midei Avir Yaakov, all this is due to the hands of the strength of Yaakov. From there, which is a good question, from where? From where? From the Yadayim. So say Mehem, plural. Why Misham? What's the wording Misham? There is a place, and Yadayim is like a thing. Say Mehem or something. Misham. What's Misham? It's going on the Avir. Let's see. Ro'eh Even Yisrael. Ro'eh is a shepherd. Evan, Yosef merited to become the shepherd for the strength of Israel. Evan is father and son. Avu Ben, that's one combination. But Yosef merited to become the one to take care of the flock of the Jewish people while they were in Egypt. That's the pshat, okay? And we said, you remember this? That the Gemara says in Sota that Yosef almost fell into his temptations to be with Potiphar's wife, right? And what happened? The image of Yaakov came at the window, and what did he say to him? Do you want to lose your name on the stones of the Choshen Mishpat? Question asked by all the Mefarshim. Why did Yaakov pick this? Why did Yaakov tell Yosef, do you want to lose your portion in the world to come? Do you want to have karet? Why did he pick something more serious? Why did he pick this? Because it fits in exactly what we just said about Aharon. Aharon and the Choshen Mishpat. And what it serves, the whole idea of the Choshen Mishpat is through the Simchat Halev, or the Simcha in the heart, by doing the mitzvah of the Simcha, is able to shine the messages of the Orient, the infinite light into a person in his life. There's something very powerful, by the way, when Nosson says having the infinite light shine in your life is the concept of Hashem giving you advice. Hashem guiding you according to the emet lamito. We went into this in the last, I think, two weeks ago. There's making decisions in life according to the emes, the emet of the Torah, and it's called the emes or emes, the emet lamito, the real truth. It depends on you. If you want the truth, so you, like you said, ask a Rav, you have regular things, that's the truth. You want the real truth, which means you want the infinite light shining into your life, and that way you don't need a dead end mistake after 10, 20, 30, 40 years. You want the real truth? That's the light of that's the infinite light, that's a higher level. Yaakov was telling Yosef, you want to lose your name on the stone of the Choshen Mishpat? Meaning what? You want to lose being guided according to the emet lamito? Do you want that to happen? And that woke him up. When Yosef saw the image of his father, and he's scared of it, you're going to lose your part in the Choshen Mishpat. You're going to lose your capacity to have access to the infinite light. Which means you're going to lose your ability to connect to the truth, the real truth, to have true guidance, Urim V'Tumim, which is the infinite light. As soon as he heard that there's a possibility he'll continue living, but a life of sheker, that woke him up. Okay? So the pasuk says, Midei Avir Yaakov. What saved? Vayafotsu, they said that the seed of Yosef came out of his 10 fingers. We said this last week, remember? That he had an erection. Vateshev be'etan kashto. He was about to have a relationship with Potiphar's wife. He saw the image and he cooled himself down by putting the pressure on his 10 fingers, okay? And then it says that the actual seed came out of the 10 fingers, in between the 10 fingers, exactly, I don't know exactly, from the nails, whatever. I didn't see the commentaries go into details about that. But it went out of the fingers instead of coming out normally. Okay, so he wasn't punished for wasted seed. There's no wasted seed here. All this was because of who? Midei Avir Yaakov, from the hands of the strength of Yaakov. How does the Gemara explain it? Abir, the strength of Yaakov, not Hashem. The Pshat is, Rashi says, this came to Yosef through the hands of Abir, the strength of Yaakov, which is Hashem. But Abir Yaakov is also Yaakov's appearance. What is Abir, by the way? What is this term, Abir? What does it translate? What is Abir Yaakov? This was from the hands of Yaakov's champion. Champion is a warrior. When we say someone is a champion, how do we say it in Hebrew? Abirut lev. When someone has courage, he has guts, he has the strength to stand up. So we say he has abirut lev, strength of the heart. So this goes back to the heart that we said. When there's simcha in the heart, this gives a person the capacity to stand up to tests. Okay? So midei avir Yaakov, from the hands of the heart of Yaakov, this is what caused the image to come to Yosef, right? Misham, from the image of Yaakov, Ro'eh, what's Ro'eh mean? Ro'eh means a shepherd, but also Ro'eh means what? Ro'eh zonot. Ro'eh zonot means someone who accompanies prostitutes. And Yosef almost fell to be called the Ro'eh Zon. The Gemara says that also in Sota. Do you want to lose your title of being the Ro'eh, the shepherd of the Jewish people, when they come to Egypt, and be called Chas Shalom, if you fall on this test with Potiphar's wife, to be called Ro'eh Zonot? Do you want that? So look at the pasuk again. Midei Avir, from the hands of the heart, the strength of the heart of Yaakov. From there came Ro'eh. Yosef, who was supposed to be Chas Shalom, Ro'eh Zonot. Even the stone, what stone? The stone of the breastplate. Unbelievable. Even Yisrael, that he merited to have the stone of the breastplate. He held on to the Even, the stone which shone the light of the Choshen Mishpat. So it's just amazing from all the corners how it fits in. And the point coming out is that the brachot came. You see, where is bracha mentioned here, by the way? It just says midei. All this, it says ben porat. Just all the brachot, yes, before. All this is due to the hands of the strength of Yaakov. Here, like we said, Rabbeinu is hinting that when you have a tzaddik in your life, okay, like Yosef, it's a big thing. Yosef now was about to fall into sin. Who saved him? The image of his father. If it wasn't for the image of his father, he would have fallen into temptation. So too it is with every Jew. There are certain temptations and situations in life that The tzaddik saves him. The image of a tzaddik wakes him up. What am I doing? I can't believe I'm wasting my life. And that's what saves him. There's a butcher here in Yerushalayim. He passed away. He was from Chicago originally, and before that, he was from Breslov. It was called Lazar's Meat. Lazar's Meat was the biggest kosher meat chain in Chicago in the 1950s, the 1960s. It was very big. Okay, he was able to run out from Ukraine. He was born in Breslov. He wasn't a Breslover. Okay, and he fled the pogroms to America. He came to Chicago, and he started a meat business. And while there, he saw how many Jews fell off, one after the next. It was impossible at the time, before World War II, like in the 1930s, 1920s, it was almost impossible to be from and to make a living, because you had to work 6 days a week, which meant Monday to Saturday, and Sunday was off. But you had to work on Shabbat. So many people gave up Shabbat because they had no money, they had no food, and nothing. So he had such a temptation. He saw so many Jews that fell off. And also when he got to Chicago, he put a notification, like a notice in the weekly like Yiddish Jewish newspaper. I'm looking at Achai Ani Mivakesh. I'm looking for my brothers, any fellow Ukrainian Jews from Breslov and from that area. So they got in touch and they made like a chabura, and he saw they all fell off. They all were fried. They all became non-religious. So he said the temptation was so strong to become like everybody else. Just stop, work on Shabbos, enjoy yourself, be secular. He said what stopped him, he said, was the image of his Rebbe when he was a child in Gun, in kindergarten. The Rebbe from grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, whatever, in the Cheder in Breslov, who was a Breslover, he said, just saw the image of his Rebbe and the Yot Shemaim on his face. He said, that stopped him. I'm comparing it similar to Yosef. He was about to fall into the test, but the image comes to a person. This is such a gift. And when you are close enough to a tzaddik, you can reach a point. This is, by the way, the measurement. How do you know if you are truly connected to a tzaddik? If when you are falling into a major test of temptation, especially Yom HaBrit, and the tzaddik shows you like an image to stop you. Yaakov threw the image to Yosef to stop him. So too, that the tzaddik sends the person image, wait a second. If you do this, you're going to lose everything. Because when a person does an avera, or about an avera, what the Gemara says, he tries to push off the machshavot of charata. The Gemara says this, when a person is about to sin, the Yetzer Tov is on the corner. No one's listening. The Yetzer Tov is saying, but don't do it. The person like takes the Yetzer Tov, puts it in the box, closes it, and put it in the corner, leave me alone, let me do the bad that I want to do. You're not here, right? So the barometer, Rav Nosson writes, is that you're attached to tzaddik, is that this thing happens and an image comes to you. In other words, a thought, it doesn't leave you. It's just standing right in front of you. If you do this, you're going to fall. You're going to lose everything. That's what saves a person. This comes about through the simcha. Yosef was someone who was happy, right? It says, Ish Matzliach. Remember this pasuk? It says, both in Potiphar's house, and in the jail, when he was in the jail, that he was Ish Matzliach. Yosef was Matzliach. What does that mean? That he took, in the nice word in English, a demeanor. He took a very happy demeanor. He had a very happy attitude, Yosef HaTzadik. And this joy is what saved him when he was faced with Misayon. And according to the laws of nature, he should have fallen in. Potiphar's wife wasn't ugly. She was beautiful. If she was an ugly woman, I can understand why he would not want to be with her. She was a beautiful woman, Potiphar's wife, okay? Potiphar was a big shot. The big shots in Egypt, they would take beautiful women. So Potiphar's wife was very beautiful, very attractive and everything. It was a test. It was a big test. What helped Yosef HaTzadik is the simcha that he had. This simcha came out afterwards that his tzaddik, which was his father, Avir Yaakov, the strength, abirut of the lev of Yaakov Avinu, the hands coming out of the heart, because where the heart is located is here, and the arms are the same level. These hands saved him, which then allowed for the bracha to come. So what Rabbeinu was adding here is that by the Midei Avir Yaakov, the brachot that Yosef got, all the brachot, Ben Porat Yosef, Ben Porat Al Me'ayin, all the brachot mentioned there in the beginning of the blessing of Yaakov in Parshat Vayechi, and then what it led to, that he became, he became the shepherd and the viceroy and all, and had the gold on his hands and everything. All these brachot is due to Avir Yaakov, the hands of the strength of Yaakov, which is due to the simcha, which Yosef Atzadik made. And he stood up to the test. And Rabbeinu is adding, when a person stands up to a test like this, okay, it's because of simcha, number one. And number two, standing up to this test will activate all the brachot. So with all this, Rabbeinu connected Aharon, the Urim Tumim, the heart, to Yaakov's heart, Abir, saving Yosef Atzadik and all the idea of the brachot. So we see from this how brachot are the idea of the hands. We finally finished this section, and hopefully next class we'll do the tefillah, Rav Noson's prayer on this to be continued. Is that clear? Okay?
Wow.
Yeah, too much. Okay. Shkoyach. Shkoyach, everybody. Thank you for joining.